Well, I think it's two places where Jesus is talking about, eating things, and it's not the things that we eat that defiles us. And yet, I know Paul is teaching that you can eat anything and everything and all that. But then again, you have the book of Acts, which tells, that you have four commandments of the Gentiles that says that they are not, they should not eat anything slaughtered to a false god, as to not defile themselves. Now, I'm just, I don't know, it's just getting somewhat, what shall we say, I don't know, do find some confliction here with my, are we, the book of Revelation talks about, that's Jesus talking, writing to 7 congregations in Asia Minor. And we know that he says that twice, at least twice, he talks about this doctrine of eating meat sacrificed to false gods. Here we go. That's one of the places to see if Stone New Name. I think that was the doctrine. Here we go. But I have a few things against thee. This is to the, let's see here, Pergamos. And he says, but I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam. And of course you need to go back to the so-called Old Testament for knowing that story and all that, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So here we have in regards to eat things sacrificed unto idols. But then again, I've just seen, I'm just looking at, let's see where's my glasses? Where is my glass? But anyway, I'm looking at the book of Mark, and I think it's actually twice said in regards to Jesus is talking to the Pharisees and the learned people, talking about in regards of not, that they're eating food without washing their hands, because that's, the traditions that the Jews still do to this very day. I do wonder where I actually put my glasses. I'm getting so blind without my glasses. It's incredible how blind I'm getting. That's weird. Where did I put those glasses? That's a good question. I guess they are somewhere. That's not going to help. Anyway, I'll just continue without the glasses, I guess. Do wonder where I put them. It's a little hard to see. Oh, there they are. Good. Great. Any case. So let's see if we can open it up. There we go. So here we have the Gospel of Mark. Well, if I can turn the camera here. So this is a Lumo Gospel of Mark. As I understand it, Lumo has made, the different Gospels following the Bible. And I was just looking at how that, and listening to what they had made here. And coming to this point, let's see if we can get the right place.
Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it. Conditions. Moses said of the command.
Okay, a little back. There we go. So Jesus is sitting there and they're eating, and the people following him around haven't washed their hands, and this is a tradition of the Jews still, a man-made traditions and all that. And of course we know Jesus was breaking a huge amount of these man-made traditions because they're utter bullshit. But in any case, so he tells these learned people, and again, I think we have at least one other place. We have the Gospel of Mark. Maybe I actually have it in my old version of the... Yep, let's get the old book here that is falling apart. Let's see if we can just move this maybe like that, and we'll just... So that will be chapter 7. Matthew chapter No, that's Marcus. No, yeah, it is Marcus. Mark 7. Of course, this is a Danish version, so about that. There we go. You see, I researched this point before. So, I do wonder, didn't I? Oh, here we go. Matthew 15. So, I put it in Matthew 15. So, it's probably in... But again, this line in regards to thereby he declared all food clean, it's not found in the book of Matthew, but it's found in Marcus. And if I remember correctly, it seemed like it actually was inserted later on. But still, even if it's still interesting, that everything that enters the body, and yet we have other places where that seems to be in regards of rebuking here. Yeah, here we go in chapter 15 as well. So if I look in regards of this one, Matthew 15. So let's go here. 15. But we also have sources outside the Bible talking about, that you should not eat food sacrificed to false gods. So, we know, of course, Paul says otherwise. And, of course, all Asia rejected Paul as a false apostle as far as it seems. Matthew, you can go to 2 Timothy 1:15 in regard to that. Well, it's one of the last letters of Paul saying that all Asia has left me. And yet we see Jesus writing through John, the Apostle John, to the 7 congregations in Asia. So anyway, and of course one of the places is Ephesus. And we of course know that Paul was in Ephesus. But okay, so let's see, it's number 9 or something like that. Let's see a little 4. Let's just take it from the top. Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees which were of Jerusalem, saying, so this is Pharisees and scribes, people that know, I guess, in regards of writing and all that. Why do thy disciples, so the disciples, what is that actually in Greek? Yes, wonder. Matitis, disciples, transgress the tradition, here we go, they even use the tradition, paratotis, or tosis, of the elders, of those that are, in power, I guess, for they wash not their hands when they eat bread. Now, of course, you cannot find that as an what do you call it? A commandment in the Torah. So this is one of the man-made traditions, But he answered that Jesus and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? For God commanded, saying, honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, it is a gift, in regards of a gift to, according to the book of Matthew, it is a gift in regards of to God, by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me. So it is a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me. And honor not his father or his mother. Again, if you look in the book of Matthew, it seems like this gift is in regards of a gift for, God instead of. But anyway, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus have ye made the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. So again, it is a tradition that if you make this a gift to God instead of actually your father and mother, then it's okay apparently. And then Jesus says this is a man-made tradition, so that they have made up. And now we have problems with apparently the network again, as always, complaining of the stupidity. I don't know what to do about it. I don't have any other programs that can do the live. Anyway, ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draw near unto me with their mouth and all on me. I think that's actually Yeshayahu, right? I'm not sure. Yeah, Isaiah, Yeshayahu. Of course, why not just use the English forms? The Hebrew forms. But all this confusion. Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah or Yeshayahu prophesy of you, saying, This people draweth near unto me with their mouth, and honored me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. So, of course, that's the same thing in regards of our days. You have a lot of the doctrines of commandments of men from the Roman Catholic insane asylum. But anyway, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. And he called the multitude and said unto them, Hear and understand, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth the man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth the man. The thing is, it sounds like, that, and I know people are using this as well for this. But again, if you take it overall in the context, we have Jesus rebuking in the book of Revelation in regards to people eating food sacrificed to false gods, or I'm missing something or whatever. In the Didache, it says the same thing, that, do the best you can in regards to clean and unclean food, yet in regards to food sacrificed to false gods, you don't touch that, you just keep far away from that. We have in the book of Acts where we see the 4 commandments, and that's 3 times the book of Acts say that you're not allowed to eat food sacrificed to a false god. Yet we have Jesus in the book of Matthew and Mark saying, Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth the man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth the man. Then came his disciples and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? Now, of course, he is talking to Jews, so I guess the Jews would understand. And of course, the context is that his disciples hasn't washed the hands. So, again, as far as I understand it, it must be in regards of they didn't wash their hands. Well, it's not that is not going to defile them. So, it seems like he's not saying that it's okay just to eat food sacrificed to false gods, but it could really, it's just not that which goeth into the mouth defileth the man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth the man. Again, you could, get the idea that you might actually, eat anything and everything, right? That this is not a problem. And yet, we see the book of Revelation that Jesus is rebuking people eating defiled, food in regards of being sacrificed to a false god in the book of Revelation. So, twice, and we can find the places, but so then came his disciples and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Pharisees were offended after they heard this saying? But he answered and said, Every plant which my heavenly Father hath not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone, they be blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. And yes, they are of course blind because they have closed out in regards of Yeshua, they have rejected the Son of God. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Declare unto us this parable. So now Peter goes in, one of the disciples go in and ask, declare unto us this parable. So apparently he thinks it's that's parable in regards to the blind. I do wonder, let's see what Jesus goes into, if it's, and Jesus said unto, I guess it's in regards of no, it's actually, he goes into the thing in regards of eating. Let's see. And Jesus said, Are ye also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever entered in at the mouth goeth into the belly and is cast out into the draught? So, but apparently Peter thinks it's a parable according to the Greek at least. I don't know what the Aramaic says or the Hebrew, but apparently there seems to be some new sources in regards of Hebrew, Matthew, and all that. I still have something I should probably do some study on. But anyway, and Jesus said unto, Are ye also yet without understanding? Do not ye yet understand that whatsoever enter into at the mouth goeth into the belly and is cast out into the draught? Draught, that would be human waste, discharge, and so forth. Okay, or maybe toilet, But anyway, but those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile the man. So, for out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. And I guess rejecting Jesus as the Son of God might be considered a blasphemy. I would think in regards of making God a liar. Anyway, so false witness, thefts, adulteries. So proceed. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murder, adulteries, fornication, thefts, false witness, and blasphemies. And these are the things which defile a man. So here we talks about actually defiling, to make unclean, render unhallowed, defile, profane, I do wonder in regards of that word then, in regards of the Old Testament, because of unclean animals are still I'm having some trouble with this defile it, because as I understand and have understood it for a long time, that this has to be in regards of this cannot be in regards of food sacrifice to false gods, because we have Jesus rebuking them in the book of Revelation. And we have the book of Acts where they in Jerusalem says that this is a no-go for the Gentiles to do. And, I guess, let's say that they were wrong in regards to the book of Acts, that it was okay, but, that they just had misunderstood or still had some Jewish traditions in them or something like that. But then again, you go to... of course, just the Old Testament as well. You get into some problems. Daniel kept away from food, so he didn't want to defile himself with the king's meat and all of that, and the wine. But then again, you also see other episodes in the Old Testament. Then you see the book of Revelation talking about it, and that's Jesus talking, right? So if Jesus is talking and rebuking them about this twice in regard to the book of Revelation, then something must be up. You have to then take, either stand, right? And of course we know in regards to Paulus, he thinks it's okay to eat anything and everything. That's pretty, that's one place where he actually says the truth, I think, in regard. But then he's all over the board, So I have a hard time with there's another source in regards of a Christian source that says, of course we don't eat these things in regards of food sacrificed to a false god. We have the Didache, we have the Clementines, and the Clementines in homilies and recognition talks about not eating food sacrificed to false gods and all that. And again, I'm kind of listening to it again in regards to the Matthew and Mark and all that. I can pretty much only conclude, I guess, what I concluded before, that you need to keep away from food sacrificed to a false god. But yeah, it's somewhat hard to. Because Jesus is saying, it's pretty. It does sound pretty clear, right? That everything going into the stomach goes out again and all that. Yet, and you have it in the book of Matthew, which is the book that I should really look into the Hebrew and Aramaic. Do I have the Aramaic actually here? I think I have. Let's see what the Aramaic says. ANT. Could we have a more better version in regards of? Didn't I have I thought I had a version without all these things. Apparently not. So, not knowing you that anything that enters the mouth to the belly, or maybe I need to read it from this direction. I'm not sure. Let's go to back. So, lo, that would he not, knowing, you, that anything that enters the mouth to the belly it goes, and from there in execration is cast out. Anything but that from the mouth proceeds from the heart, proceeds, and it is defiling him, the man. It's a little hard to actually read. I thought I had the standard ENT. Maybe I deleted it or something like that. I thought I had a standard version of the ENT and on my phone. Apparently it doesn't seem to. Maybe this one. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh yeah. Do you not know that anything that enters the mouth goes to the belly and is cast out? And this is the Aramaic. And is cast out from the in excretion. Anything that proceeds from the mouth proceeds from the heart, and it defiles the man. For from the heart proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, murders, fornications, thefts, lying testimonies, and blasphemies. These things are those that defile a man, but if a man will eat after not washing his hands, he is not defiled. There we go. So again, as far as I can see the context, and looking at the other things, that we have, these things are those that defile a man, but if a man will eat after not washing his hands, he is not defiled. So again, it seems to be the context is in regards to, if you're not washing your hands, you're not defiled. If you, so that seems to. But if you go to the book of Mark, they have this extra thing of saying that he fixed everything, that, he made everything clean. He was making it to allow to eat anything and everything. But that doesn't appear in the book of Matthew, and that seems to be, as far as I remember doing the research long ago, it seems to be in regards of something that was inserted later on. I'm actually not sure if it's actually in the Aramaic either. Again, I can't remember. Let's see. Let's go to the book of Matthew again and see where it was. Where was it? Let's see the glasses again. Matthew 7. Okay. No, Mark 7. Okay. Mark 7. Select. Let's see. So here we go. The same episode and all that. For all the Judeans and Pharisees do not eat unless they wash their hands carefully, because they keep the traditions of the elders. They keep man-made traditions. And coming from the marketplace, unless they bath, they do not eat. And there are many other things which they had received to keep: washing of cups and pots and copper vessels and of beds. And the scribes and the Pharisees asked him, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the traditions of the elders, but eat bread without having washed their hands?" So again, the context is in regards of washing the hands, not in regards of food sacrificed to false god and all that. But he said to them, but again, the thing that he's talking, that anything that goes into the mouth and the stomach and all that comes out again, that seems a little you would easily be able to misunderstand that, it seems, if because it's just because it seems like eating meat sacrificed to a false god is no-go according to the book of Revelation, where Jesus talks. So that seems to not be included. And we also know from the book of Acts, we know from the book of the Didache, we see the recognitions as well, Clementine recognition, and there's another recognition, and can't remember the homilies. But he said to them, Yeshayahu the prophet prophesied beautifully of your phonies, just as it is written, "This people honors me with its lips, but their heart is very far from me. And in vain they pay reverence to me, as they teach doctrines of commandments of the sons of men." So again, this is man-made traditions. "You forsake the commandments of God, and you keep the traditions of the sons of men, washing the cups and pots and many such things like these." He said to them, "Well, you reject the commandments of God, that you may establish your traditions. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother, and whoever reviles father and mother shall die the death.' But you say, if a man shall say to his father or his mother, my offering is anything that you shall gain from me. It seems to be a bad. My offering is anything that... The idea is, as far as I understand it, is that, the offering is being made to God instead, and thereby the person doesn't give anything to their parents. Then you do not allow him to do anything for his father or his mother. Again, the translation I think could probably be better. But anyway, and you reject the word of God for the traditions that you deliver, and many things like these you do. So there's a lot of man-made traditions that these Pharisees and scribes, and learned people of the Jews do, and they still do them today. So nothing has really changed on that part. They still wash their hands and all that before they eat and so forth. And Yeshua called to all the crowds, and he said to them, hear me, all of you, and understand. This is an interesting thing, right? And Yeshua called to all the crowds, and he said to them, hear me, all of you, and understand. There's nothing outside of a man that enters into him that can defile him, but that thing that proceeds from him, that is what defiles the man. Whosoever have an ear to hear, let him hear. Is that to say that it doesn't matter what we eat outside would be, it would be okay. But then again, why would Jesus be rebuking in regards to the book of Revelation, in regards to people eating food sacrificed to false gods? But when Yeshua entered the house from the crowds, his disciples asked him about the parable. So a parable doesn't sound so much of a parable, does it? But I guess. He said to them, are you also stupid? Do you not know that nothing entering from the outside a man can defile him? So, because it does not enter his heart, but his belly, and is discharged by accretion, which purifies all foods. But the thing that proceeds from a man that defiles the man, from within the heart of the children of men proceeds evil ideas, adultery, fornication, theft, murder, greed, wickedness, deceit, harlotry, an evil eye, blasphemy, boasting, senselessness. All these evils proceed from within and defile a man. But doesn't seem to actually have the thing where it says that. See if I can find it in my Danish version. Where they put the extra line in. That's actually number 19. Yeah, it's not there. And coming out again, let's see, 19. And this chart, yeah. So the Danish version here has inserted a line that it says that he declared all food clean. And a lot of people use that to say that now we can eat anything and everything. But again, it's not found in the book of Matthew. And again, you can see it's not found in the Aramaic either, it seems. So as far as I remember from researching, it was something that was inserted later on, but I don't know. Anyway, so all these evil proceeds from within and defile a man. Yeshua arose from there and came to the coast of Tyre and of Sidon, and he entered a certain house, and he did not want anyone to know him, and he could not be hidden. But anyway, so we have this episode where he does say that everything that, there's nothing outside of a man that enters into him that can defile him, but the thing that proceeds from him, that is what defiles a man. If we take that on account, and we don't take the content, that would say, hey, you could quickly come to realize, well, it's okay to eat meat sacrificed to a false god then, without any problem. But then you have the other things to take into, the equation. Why would the disciples in Jerusalem make such a great mistake to then say that the Gentiles, are not allowed to eat meat sacrificed to a false god? And it's put down 3 times. And again, why would Yeshua in the book of Revelation say, well, so yeah, it's. I'm still at a stand here in regards of how to totally go around this. The conclusion was beforehand, and I guess that's still the conclusion I hang on to, that we shouldn't eat food sacrificed to false gods. But then again, if you look at what Jesus says in the book of Matthew and Mark, even without this extra line that he made every food clean and all that, again, the Torah has unclean food and clean food. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's because God is in the camp, but that seems a little, it's still clean and unclean food. It's just this seems somewhat. Here we go in regards of, okay, so it's Apostle Acts 15. I'm just sitting with my Danish version here because that's where I, put a lot of things, and you can see my what do you call it? My camera. You can see my sitting here, right? So I have all the scratching here and all that. So it's a little easier to figure out where things are. I'm somewhat more acquainted with this than, but here we see in Danish here that you are to, not eat anything in regards of false gods, in regards of not defiling yourself. And that would be number 20 here. So that is what they say in regards of number 15, apparently it changed. But let it be sent to them that they separate from the defilement of sacrifices and from fornication and from what is strangled and from blood. Actually, that's a little different to actually write. Now, this is the Aramaic version, but that's actually a little different way of actually saying it. Then it actually says, but let it be sent to them that they separate from the defilement of sacrifices. That sounds more like that they shouldn't take part in these sacrifices. That's a little different, right, than actually eating. Let's see the next one, how they say that in the Aramaic here, 29. Abstain from what is sacrificed. Well, I think that's pretty clear. Abstain from what is sacrificed from blood and what is strangled and from fornication. And when you keep yourself from these things, you will be faith in our Lord. So that is from the Aramaic. I think if you go to another version in regards of number 20 here, I think it seems more clear that, but what we write unto them, that they abstain from pollutions of idols. And in regards to pollutions of idols would be to eat things sacrificed to a false god. The Danish pretty much just, it says, I think it's a little more clear, at least from, that you're not to defile yourself from, false gods. In the Danish here, they translate it like that. And if you go next to the number 29, that's again the thing with that ye abstain from meats offered to idols. So it doesn't just say, if you just took this in the Aramaic, the line that we just read in regards of 20 in the Aramaic, the translation, that sounds like that they should just abstain from, taking part in the sacrifice to idols. But if you then go look at the other and take it into context, which this is talking about, that ye abstain from meat offered to idols and from blood and from things strangled and from fornication. So these are food laws, meat offered to idols. You're not, you shouldn't eat those things. And from blood, you shouldn't eat blood. You shouldn't eat anything that had been strangled. And that would conclude, something that hasn't died of itself either. Because it hasn't been, the blood hasn't been so anyway, you have the Torah, so it's commandments from the Torah pretty much, and from fornication, I'm not sure what word they use in regards of porneia. Okay, so there's one more place that this actually is, and it said these commandments are said to be necessary. Are we to then, so either maybe we're missing something in regards to the translation, in the book of Matthew and Mark in regards of when Jesus says, but again, we have to remember the context. He's not talking about eating food sacrificed to a false god or anything. He's talking about your hands, but yet again, the translation sounds like it's everything, that everything outside that you eat shouldn't be a problem, because it's not, the things that you eat is not what defiles you, but what is actually coming out from your heart in regards of thoughts and all that. I have problems with this. The best conclusion that I pretty much have had on this is that not to eat anything sacrificed to a false god. Again, it would be interesting to see the Hebrew Matthew, what it actually says in regards of the eating of things. I don't think we have any. We have the Aramaic, of course. So did we? Yeah, I think we looked at that. We looked at that. I think. Anyway, this is when Paul comes back. This is Acts 21. And when Paul comes back, he's tested in regards of keeping the law. Now, of course, we know that Paul was pretty much, he didn't believe that he needed to keep the law himself, but he's tested in Jerusalem. There we go. Let's see here. Number 24, 25. Okay. So they glorified the Jews and all that. And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry in regards of the ministry of Paul. Diaconia, okay. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews, Judeus or something like that, there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law. So they are all zealous for the law in regards of the law of God, of course. It's interesting, right? Why would the first Christians, the Nazarenes, those closest to actually knowing Jesus, why would they be zealous for the law? Well, Jesus didn't come to destroy the law. He didn't come, all the things that he was breaking pretty much was all the man-made laws of the Pharisees and the scribes. So, as we can see, the first believers, that would be, the Nazarenes, were all zealous of the law. And again, we know from history and historical sources and all that they were still keeping the law in the, I think it was 4th century or something like that. Maybe the 5th century, I can't remember. But we have this medicine chest in regards of heresies. And one of the heresies they put in there is in regards of the Nazarenes. And why are they heretics according to this guy writing it? Because they keep the law. Isn't that interesting? The first Christians being called a heretic or heresy. But they believed that Jesus was God, that he was the Son of God, and that he was born of a virgin and all that. They pretty much believed the same thing, also according to this source. But they were still keeping the law. They were not going with the Roman bullshit and all that. Anyway, so here we go. This is James, Yaakov, the head of the Jerusalem congregation, the mother church pretty much, and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs. So apparently James have heard something in regards of Paul, that he is actually teaching those Jews that comes to believe in, and Jesus, that they are to forsake Moses. And apparently it seems like James or Yaakov believes that, that can't be true, is it, Paul? So anyway, so he says, what is it therefore? The multitude must needs come together, for they will hear that thou art come. Do therefore this that we say to thee. We are 4 men which have a vow a prayer above. Of course, Yeshua did say we shouldn't take any oath and all that. But anyway, on them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. So something, apparently there goes some things around the Jews that Paul is teaching the Jews to forsake Moses in regards to the law of Moses. And Yaakov is like, that you wouldn't do that, would you, Paul? And you do this so you can show that you are actually not doing that, okay? Now, of course, that's just, it's just rumors, right? The question is it actually rumors? Maybe actually Paul did that. Anyway, so, he doesn't believe that he himself is under the law, that, a Jew, he goes into this Gentile for Gentile, Jew for Jew and all that. So, them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly and keepest the law. So what does Yaakov expect of Paul? That he keeps the law. Nomos, that he upholds the law. Of course, we know from the book of Matthew that Jesus, rejects some people that says, Lord, Lord, haven't we done wonderful things and, mighty deeds in your name and so forward? And Yeshua says, verily, verily, I tell you, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work lawlessness, that work iniquity, lawlessness, ye that are without law. I think it's actually a nomos instead of nomos. But anyway, so here Yaakov is saying, I've heard, we heard these things and all that, but do this so we can, so you can show that that's nothing to do to those rumors. So he goes on, as touching the Gentiles, that would be the Gentiles. That's, for example, me. I'm not a Jew. I have been shaking the tree to see if there was any Jew falling out of the tree, but I haven't found anyone. But of course, even if, you never know in regards to who's going around and having, toying around with each other and all that. Anyway, so as for touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. So here we see the 4 commandments again. Now, of course, first time these 4 commandments are told in the book of Acts, we also, it seems like that it is expected that we are to grow in regards, Moses is being read aloud on every Sabbath. So it seems to me, and again, some translations are better than others, but it seems pretty clear that, it seems that the Gentiles would, of course, come to the Sabbath and listen to the law and, Moses and all that. And they would learn from there on, but they had these 4 necessary things, that is also found in the law of Jehovah. The law of Moses. So if we go, let's see, 15 here. Where was it in regards of the... So, again, when Jesus says that, I guess you have to take it into context in regards to the book of Matthew and Mark. But I do understand why people would come to the conclusion that Jesus is saying that we can eat anything and everything. But taking the rest into context, if you take the book of Revelation and the book of Acts together, it doesn't seem like the people in Jerusalem had, understood Jesus saying that, So then the question is, did Jesus really, was that the understanding they got when Jesus said that? Is it a bad translation in regards to the Greek? And I don't know, it would be interesting to see the Hebrew, how they would, go around it. We do have manuscripts in regards to the Hebrew, Matthew and all that. again, looking at the context, it seems to be the context is in regards of washing your hands, right? But again, it does seems to say that Jesus says that anything that comes from the outside doesn't defile a person, but the things that goes out from the heart. And yet again, it's very. Anyway, by the way, in regards of for Moses has from the times of old, have its readers in its cities or something like that, and it's read in the synagogues, the house of meetings, every single Sabbath. Now, a house of meeting, like a synagogue, could be a church building, whatever. It's a place where you come together, and that would be also, we know that Jesus went to the synagogue as his custom. Now, looking at the book of Mark that I'm listening to at the moment, you just see him, again and again going to the synagogue at the Sabbath and so forward, and teaching and so forward. So, yeah. So if we're going by the book of Acts, we know that the first believers did not believe that the law was abolished, because they was themselves keeping it, and they were zealous. The new believers in Yeshua were zealous for the Torah, not the traditions of the Jews. No, but in regards to the written law of Moses. To get back to the written law of Moses, we know that the first believers in Yeshua, were zealous for that. Did they get that wrong? No, I don't think so. But, but apparently they were then later on called, they were put into the category of heresies. It's just incredible. The first believers in Yeshua. So, in regards to the book of Acts, one can learn a lot in regards. The thing is, we still don't have. There must have been a document in regards of the Nazarenes, and we have what we have. And the book of Acts, we can see some of the things that seem to, we can still learn in regards to the Nazarenes. They were called the followers of the way, and they apparently were zealous for the law, all zealous of the law. And we're not talking about the Roman law. We're not talking about the man-made laws of the Jews. We're talking about the law of God. So, yeah, so anyway. So I'm kind of, I know Paul is teaching that it's okay to eat anything and everything, but then you go to the book of Revelation. And the book of Revelation, so again, I can still only conclude what my last, conclusion was, that when Jesus says that, that it doesn't make you unclean, it's in regards of not washing your hands. It is not in regard, because we still have the Torah saying that there's clean animals and there are unclean animals. Some animals are considered clean according to the written Torah, and some animals are not considered clean So, and if Yeshua was actually, yeah, well, if I don't know, it's oh well. And I'm sure the Jews would probably have come after him if that was what he, what they understood him saying. So I do wonder if that is the real understanding. And then again, you say, you have the book of Revelation where it talks about, let's see where it is, number 14, for example. Here we go. But I have, this is Yeshua speaking, but I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So, and it seems like this is one single doctrine in some sense, because here we go. So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine, that seems to be singular, the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, that's those that rules over the people, which things I hate. I don't know what it actually says here, but usually in regards of those that rules or conquers the people, those that rules over the people pretty much. So, And he says, repent, or else I will come unto thee quickly and will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. So, yeah. So that seems like actually rebuking in regards to this doctrine of eating things sacrificed unto idols. And we have one more in regards of, let's see here. Notwithstanding, I have few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which called herself a prophetess, and Jezebel was a pagan queen, if I remember correctly, and she took her bullshit with her. If I remember, I need to reread that, but I think that was, she was a pagan queen, if I remember, that married a Jewish or an Israelite man in the northern kingdom of, when it was split and all that. I can't remember all the details, but something of that kind. Which called herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. So again, so if Jesus is rebuking people of eating things sacrificed unto idols, well, then he cannot be talking about eating anything and everything. He seems to be talking about, it's not in regards of washing your hands and all that will make someone unclean. But it does seem to, he says that everything that is outside won't make you unclean. And yet, we have the book of Acts, we have the book of Revelation. Of course, we have the book we have the letters of Paul that says otherwise. Paul just thinks it's okay to eat anything and everything, except once, at least one time, he actually does say something else. But Paul is pretty much all over the picture a lot of times. So, whatever. So, yeah, I'm just having some issues with that, I can only conclude that we're not allowed to eat food sacrificed to false gods. And I wish we, I should see if I can get I can't remember if I did study in regards to the Hebrew, when I looked into it, and how I probably, again, that's a lot to do more research on and all that. But taking things into context, it just seems like it's I think I actually have the book of the Didache. Maybe it's not installed. No, it's probably not installed at the moment. There's a mess in regards to the books and all that. But I think the Didache is somewhere in one of these. I can't remember where, but I think I've looked at it at some point. Books, maybe English. Didache. We have Josephus. And maybe this up here actually in regards of the maybe this one of some more gas. The book of Yeshua. Oh well. Anyway, I have it in paper form over here. Let's see. Have it over here somewhere. There we go. There we go with the Didache. And it says, it also has a chapter on, now of course this is a book outside the Bible and all that. But here we go in the chapter. This is what is said to be the first rule book of, a Christian rule book, collected together. And see here. And it says, eating, Didache 6:3. Regarding eating, do the best you can, yet by all means abstain entirely from meat sacrificed to idols, for eating such is worshipping the gods of the dead. So that's the Didache. I have another source from Christian of some, that also talks about it. It's on Facebook at some place. And of course, then we have the Clementine homilies that also talks about it. Let's see, yeah, there we go. That's one of the That's another book, yeah. It also talks about, it actually talks about the reasons why we are not allowed to eat food sacrificed to false gods. Let's see if I can find some of the places. And it's not a book that is found in the New... now they're running out. The places where I put things and all that. Some say it's... that is the interesting thing with this book, that it has things that seems to, some believe it's coming from the Ebionites or the Nazarenes. Now, if it's coming from the Ebionites, they would probably have gotten information from the Nazarenes. You usually take things with you. Now, the Ebionites they rejected that Jesus was the Son of God, that he was God in the flesh, and that he was it's hard to remember all these things, but they don't believe in the virgin birth and all that. But of course, they were not the original. Let's see here. Here we go. This is one of the places. But the things that polluted in actions are these: murders, adulteries, hatreds, avarice, and evil ambition. And the things that pollute at once the spirit and the body are these: to partake of the table of demons, and that is, to taste things sacrificed, or blood, or a carcass that is strangled. So that would be the same three commands we see in the book of Acts. And if there be aught else that has been offered to demons, so anything else that has been offered to demons, keep away. Be this therefore the first step to you of 3, which step brings forth and more commandments and So it talks about brings forth 30 commands, and second 60, and a third 100, as we will expound more fully as to you another time. I guess in regards of being in some sense a disciple, right? Learning more and more and all that. And again, if we look at the book of Acts, it does seem like the Gentiles was going to listen to the, to the scriptures. So this is one of the places. I know there's like 3 places I think it talks about it. Just can't remember where it is. So, but there, of course, this is a book outside the Bible, and just interesting to see that we actually get some reasons why we wouldn't eat things sacrificed to a false god. So, yeah. There we go, some more gas. Better out than in the tube. Okay, in regards of the Nazarenes. I know where all... Let's see, we could turn around here. I don't know where... Here we have in regards of false prophets and false... apostles and false... what was Morim? I can't remember. But anyway... who should speak indeed in the name of the Messiah, but should accomplish the will of the demon. So, of course, Yeshua did warn us about wolves in sheep clothing and all that. Where was it in regards to this eating? I know, but anyway, some of the places in this book, or these books, it actually, talks about some of the reasons why food sacrificed to false gods would be a no-go, because that's, you're told some of the places that you're not allowed to eat things that have been sacrificed, in regards to defilement and all that, and then you wonder why. And this book actually goes into the reasons why you shouldn't eat anything sacrificed to a false god. So overall, in regards of the context, when Jesus talking about washing the hands, now washing of the hands would, would be in regards of a tradition that is not, but is he saying that we could eat anything and everything? That seems not to be the case as far as I can see, taking it all in context. But if you just take that part where Jesus is saying it, it sounds very likely that everything that you eat, but he's talking to Jews that what you usually eat, clean meat and clean animals, and not eat anything that has been sacrificed to a false god. I don't know. It's just somewhat confusing. I really, the Christian source. We have another Christian source that says that, Christians, of course, don't eat anything in regards to the pagan. So, let's see. That would be, Facebook. We actually also have some Mohammedan sources in regards of when they were still worshipping, they're still worshipping Satan, but when they were more into when they were divided in regards of different gods and all that. So, but anyway, let's see here. Thinking, food sacrificed. I do wonder if I can find it. Sacrificed. False god. That's a lot. I do. Yeah. Okay, so for self and meat sacrificed to idols or false gods, Exodus 34:15, number 25:2, Psalms 106:28, Daniel 1:8, and Tobit 1:10 and 11. And here we go. Aristides, and this is Aristides, and it says, they do not worship idols made in the image of man, and whatsoever they would not that others should do unto them, they do not do to others. And of the food which is consecrated to idols, they do not eat, for they are pure. That is in regards of the Christians. He's talking about the Christians here. So the Christians, they do not worship to idols made in the image of man, and whatsoever they would not that others do unto them, they do not to others. That's also a Christian doctrine, right? And of the food which is consecrated to idols, they do not eat, for they are pure. Now, that's another source that seems to say that Christians are not eating things that is sacrificed to a false god. I do not know when this guy was living, this early Christian writing. Let's see the link here. The Apology of Aristides, the Philosopher. So I guess he might have been a pagan or something like that. Translated from the Syriac version. So this is a Syriac version. I do wonder where he... editors note, the Apology of Aristides, mentioned by Eusebius and Jerome and other ancient writers, and said to have been the inspiration for the great works of Justin Martyr, were considered lost until the late 19th century, when an Armenian fragment was discovered. Well, that's still only a fragment then, right? Then in 1889, the full text in Syriac translation was found in the library of Catherine in Sinai. Ironically, it was then realized that the work had never been lost at all. A slightly shortened version of it had been preserved in a well-known life of Balaam of India by John of Damascus. They call it Saint John of Damascus, since the numerous reference to Greek gods would have made little impact on the Indian audience. One may assume that Saint John, writing for a Greek readership, which would have found a denunciation of Vedic or Buddhist deities equally meaningless, decided to insert the Apology of Aristides as a sort of rough equivalent to whatever Balaam actually preached to the Brahmins. So, I don't know. I haven't read it, actually. So let's see here. Saint Aristides delivered the Apology around year 125, when Hadrian visited Athens. Eusebius, HE43, whatever. His memory is kept by the church on 31 August. Since the Greek version found in Balaam and Yoasaph is widely available online, we here give the longer version preserved in Syriac. Note that there are a number of Syrians in this version. Note that there are a number of Syrianisms, in this version, I guess ways of speaking or something like that. Culturally rather than theological, such as the reference to Hades as Sheol. Well, Sheol is the Hebrew name of, Hades is pretty much in Greek, and Sheol is in the Hebrew, and it's in regards of the realm of the dead, or the place of the dead. So the Apology of Aristide, interesting if it's from the year 125, for apparently Hadrian when he visited Athens. So that would be in Greece, wouldn't it? So that would be interesting. And as far as this is one of the sources that says the Christians don't, this is the way I found the quote, that Christians don't eat anything, that is consecrated to an idol. So where would they get that doctrine from? And some more gas outside me, I guess. Yeah. So again, I guess you could probably find more sources on this subject, but as far as it goes to me, it seems like we are not allowed to eat for, things sacrificed to a false god. And in regards to Jesus saying that, anything is clean coming from the outside, he's still talking to Jews, and the Jews they don't eat unclean animals, right? So, and he's talking in the context of washing your hands, and the Jews to this very day still do it. They still do it. I've experienced it. They still do this where they have this water bath and they wash their hands and before they eat and all that. Or they do the thing with the can and you just it's not biblical. You don't find it in the Bible. It's tradition. So I think Jesus is just speaking in regards of this, that's as best that I can do. But I know if you go to Paul, he says you can eat anything and everything, But again, why would we have conflicting things on that other places then, if that's the case, So that was one that is Irish. Actually, maybe I can just copy, if I just copy the link here and go to my Facebook and just put it in there, and I can easily the Apology of Aris, and again that would be interesting, of course, if it's from 125. Again, I really need to read more on the material that has survived in regards of Christianity and all that. There's huge amount of information, of course, out there. And there's a huge amount of information that haven't even been translated into English, as far as I understand it. So again, there's one can get the gold nuggets here and there. Here we have it. This is the Apology of Aris of apparently that doesn't look so good. Apology of Aristide or something like that. I don't know why it's Aretites. The philosopher of Athens, I guess he must then be a Christian, translated from the Syriac version, by this and that guy and so forward. Semitic languages in the University of Edinburgh, and we pretty much read the other thing here. Here we go in regards to the reference to Hades as Sheol. Well, Hades is Sheol and Sheol is Hades, and I don't like the word hell, because when you use the word hell, people tend to mix that up because of mistranslations in the King James Version, or at least things that is absolutely should be corrected in the King James Version. And people saying that the King James Version is just the perfect word of God and all that. You have to be kidding me. They took the name of Yehovah out nearly 7,000 times. Don't tell me that it's the perfect version and all that. It's good, but it's not perfect. You know, there's some issues for sure. And if you see some of the words that is in the King James Version, you know, sometimes it's translated to multiple English words. You know, it doesn't make it easier for the... Anyway, let's see here. The apology of Aretites. Here follows the defense which Aretites, the philosopher, made before Hadrian, the king, on behalf of the reverence for God. All-powerful Caesar, Titus, Hadrianus, Antoninus, venerable and merciful, from Marcianus, Aretide, an Athenian philosopher. 1. O King, by the grace of God came into this world, and when I have considered the heaven and the earth and the seas, and had surveyed the sun and the rest of creation, I marveled at the beauty of the world, and I perceived that the world and all that is therein are moved by the power of another, and I understood that he who moves them is God, who is hidden in them and veiled by them. Again, it sounds somewhat a little like a pantheism, you know. God is outside his creation, you know. He's not... God doesn't need the creation to, you know, he's God. He's not his creation, he's God. That is why we're not allowed to worship the creation. We are only allowed to worship the Creator. Anyway, who is hidden in them and veiled by them. And it is manifest that which caused motion is more powerful than that which is moved, but that I should make search concerning the same mover of all as to what is his nature. For it seems to me he is indeed unsearchable in his nature, and that I should argue as to the constancy of his government, so as to grasp it fully. This is a vain effort for me, for it is not possible that a man should fully comprehend it. I say, however, concerning this mover of the world, that he is God of all, who made all things for the sake of mankind, and it seems to me that this is reasonable, and one should fear God and should not oppress man. Yeah, it sounds pretty reasonable, you know. I say then that God is not born, nor made, an ever-abiding nature, without beginning and without end, immortal, perfect, and incomprehensible. Of course, in regards of born, now Jesus was born, wasn't he? But anyway, I guess he's thinking of the overall... anyway, let's just... Now, when I say that he is perfect, it means that there is not in him any defect, and he is not in need of anything, but all things are in need of him. And when I say that he is without beginning, this means that everything which has beginning has also an end, and that which has an end and may be brought to an end, he has no name. For everything which has a name is kindred to things created. Form he has none, nor yet any union of members, for whatsoever possesses these is kindred to things fashioned. I don't know. I don't know if this guy's Christian or not. Maybe he's not Christian. Because there seems to be some... he is neither male nor female. Well, father, son, sounds pretty male to me. But anyway, nor female. The heavens do not limit him. But the heavens and all things visible and invisible receive their bounds from him. Adversary he has none, for there exists not any stronger than he. Wrath and indignation he possesses not, for there is nothing which is able to stand against him. Ignorance and forgetfulness are not in his nature, for he is altogether wisdom and understanding, and in him stands fast all that exists. He requires not sacrifice and libation. I guess libation, that was probably in regards to the wine, wasn't it? I'm not sure. In regards of giving drink things, I think that was serving of an alcoholic beverage, for the gods, for example, poured out in honor of a deity and all that, serving wine. So anyway, nor even one of things visible. He requires not aught from any, but all living creatures stand in need of him. Well, I'm not sure if this guy seems to have some issues, but maybe he's not a Christian overall. I'm not sure. Let's see. But there are some things that I wouldn't agree. Jesus was a man, right? And he was born, right? So anyway, since then we have addressed you concerning God, so far as our discourse can bear upon him, let us now come to the race of men, that we may know which of them participate in the truth of which we have spoken, and which of them go astray from it. This is clear to you, O king, that there are 4 classes of men in this world, barbarians and Greeks, Jews and Christians. Oh, this is clear to you, O king, that there are 4 classes of men in this world. Barbarians, that's probably the category my people would, or the Danish people would have been in. And Greeks and Jews and Christians. At that point, I don't know how many Christians there are. I don't know even if Denmark existed at that point. Anyway, I guess it came, I don't know, when the next, whatever, let's just continue. The barbarians indeed trace the origin of their kind of religion from Kronos. Is that in regards Kronos? And from Rhea and the other gods. The Greek, however, from Helenos, who is said to be sprung from Zeus, and by Helenos there are born Aeolus and Xuphos, and there were others descended from Inachos and Phoroneos, and lastly from the Egyptian Danaos, and from Cadmos, and from Dionysus. The Jews again trace the origin of their race from Abraham, who begat Isaac, of whom was born Jacob, and he begat 12 sons who migrated from Syria to Egypt. And he begat 12 sons who migrated from Syria to Egypt. Wasn't that actually from Canaan to Egypt? Let me think. No. Okay. Jacob is, of course, yeah. Okay, he's having some of his children while he is, maybe that would be considered Syria. I don't know. But anyway, okay. And there they were called the nation of the Hebrews by him who made their laws, and at length they were named Jews. So, and they were nation of the Hebrews, and that they were called the nation of the Hebrews by him who made their laws. Okay, and at length they were named Jews. The Christians then trace the beginning of the religion from Jesus the Messiah, and he is named the Son of God Most High. And it is said that God came down from heaven, amen, and from a Hebrew virgin, amen, assumed and clothed himself with the flesh, amen, and the Son of God lived in the daughter of man. Well, that would be an amen, right? This is taught in the gospel, the good news, as it is called. So it's called the good news. Yeah, I wonder which of them he's told. But yeah, of course, all of them are pretty much talking about the execution and so forth of Yeshua. Anyway, as it is called, which a short time was preached among them. And you, that would be then the book of Matthew probably. And you also, if you will read therein, may perceive the power which belongs to it. This Jesus then was born of the race of the Hebrews, and he had 12 disciples in all, that the purpose of his incarnation might in time be accomplished. So I do wonder if, again, this guy is a believer or non-believer. But anyway, so by of his incarnation might in time be accomplished. But he himself was pierced by the Jews. But again, if this is from 125, if this is a Christian, of course, the historians will just, or the non-believers would just say, it was written by, Christian. If it, I think I messed that up. If it's a Christian writing it, people will just say, it's just a Christian writing it, so it's not valid anymore. It's like, so that's how it goes. If a person actually becomes a Christian and and becomes to believe in Yeshua and then writes about what is, then it's not valid anymore because the person writing it is a Christian. Yet, it just seems to kind of rather. Anyway, that's the logic apparently. So, anyway, but he himself was pierced. It is the same thing when, like, for example, the guy in modern time, the research as a, what do you call it? When you are, when you're looking into things, I can't remember what it's called, and what's it called? Anyway, he looked into the things, and he found out that there's too much evidence for Yeshua and all that, so he became a Christian. But of course, now that he had become a Christian, all his research is just down the drain, right, in regards to the views of the world, because now he's a Christian, so now he can't. Anyway, but he himself was pierced by the Jews, and he died and was buried, and I actually think he actually went out to try to actually discount. I can't remember what the name was and what. Anyway, but he himself was pierced by the Jews, and he died and was buried, and they say that after 3 days he rose. Okay, so it doesn't seem like he might actually not be a Christian. So that might actually be a valid source for those that doesn't believe. Anyway, so this Jesus then was born of the race of the Hebrews, and he had 12 disciples in order that the purpose of this incarnation might in time be accomplished. But he himself was pierced by the Jews, and he died and was buried, and they say that after 3 days he rose and ascended to heaven. It does not really sound like a believer overall, so that's interesting. So we might have a source here that is, more, what shall we say, not a Christian, and thereby they might accept, I don't know, whatever. They will reject everything, it seems, Anyway, and they say that after 3 days he rose and ascended to heaven. Well, he rose from the grave, yep. Thereupon these 12 disciples went forth throughout the known parts of the world, and kept showing his greatness with all modesty and uprightness. And hence also those of the present day who believed that preaching are called Christians, and they are become famous. So then there are, as I said above, 4 classes of men: barbarians and Greeks, Jews and Christians. Moreover, the wind is obedience to God, and fire to the angels, the waters also to the demons, and the earth to the sons of men. Possible inserted by mistake into one of the early manuscripts, I don't know. But anyway, 3. I do wonder, maybe it's going to come into, how much text is there actually? A good amount, I must say. I guess he will come into the Christian thing again at some point. So let's go up here. That'll be interesting. So he doesn't sound like he himself is a Christian. He's just going over the things that actually. So anyway, let us begin then with the barbarians and go to the rest of the nations one after another, that we may see which of them hold the truth as to God, and which of them hold error. The barbarians then, as they did not comprehend God, went astray among the elements, and began to worship things created instead of their Creator. And for this end they made images and shut them up in shrines. Anyone seen what the Roman Catholics are doing? Anyway, and lo, they worship them. Seen what the Catholics are doing? And of course also the Orthodox with the images and icons and all that. They believe that the Holy Spirit is in the icon, Anyway, they worship them, guarding them the while with much care, lest their gods be stolen by robbers. And the barbarians did not observe that which acts as God is greater than that which is guarded, and that everyone who creates is greater than that which is created. If it be then that their gods are too feeble to see to their own safety, how will they take thought for the safety of men? Great then is the error into which the barbarians wandered in, worshipping lifeless images, which can do nothing to help them. And I am led to wonder, O king of their philosophers, how that even they went astray and gave the name of gods to images, which were made in honor of the elements, and that their sages did not perceive that the elements also are dissoluble and perishable. For if a small part of an element is dissolved or destroyed, the whole of it may be dissolved and destroyed. If then the elements themselves are dissolved and destroyed and forced to be subject to another that is more stubborn than they, if they are not in their nature gods, why, forsooth, do they call the images which are made in their honor God? Question mark. Great then is the error which the philosophers among them have brought upon their followers. And of course, in regards to Roman Catholicism, is great error. Anyway, let us turn now, O king, to the elements in themselves, that we may make clear in regards to them that they are not gods, but a created thing liable to ruin and change, which is of the same nature as man, whereas God is imperishable and unvarying and invisible, while yet he sees and overrules and transforms all things. By the way, in regards of, when we fall away from the Bible and the truth and all that, automatically people turn to paganism, because they will be looking for something, They will be looking for what is the meaning of life, what is the purpose, what is going, and, they'll be lured into Satan's candy shop. If you leave the Bible, that's the direction you will go. You will go into Satan's, Satan's, candy shop. Those then who believe concerning the earth that is a God have hitherto deceived themselves, since it is furrowed and set with plants and trench, and it takes in the filthy refuge of men and beasts and cattle, and at times it becomes unfruitful, for if it be burnt to ashes, it becomes devoid of life, for nothing germinates from an earthen jar. And besides, if water be collected upon it, it is dissolved together with its product, and lo, it is trodden under foot of men and beasts, and receives the blood of the slain, and it is stuck open and filled with the dead, and becomes a tomb for corpses. But it is impossible that a nature which is holy and worthy and blessed and immortal should allow of any one of these things. And hence it appears to us that the earth is not a god, but a creation of God. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think he got the long end here, I guess. There's a lot of things that I didn't really, but in regards, the creation is created by the Creator. The creation is not to be worshipped. We are to worship the Creator. So nothing in pantheism in regards of creation being God and so forth. This other bullshit is paganism. We are to worship God and God alone. And and of course, Yeshua is God and the only way to his Father. So, but then you would say, well, you're talking about two. Well, two being one, Because, as the Son said, me and my Father are one. And Elohim in Hebrew is plural and not singular. Anyway, so every time you see, many times when you see the translation translated into God, if you actually look into the Hebrew, it's actually plural. So anyway, in the same way, again, those erred who believed, this is number 5, again we have Roman numbers. In the same way, again, those erred who believed the waters to be gods, for the waters were created for the use of man, and are put under his rule in many ways, for they suffer change and admit impurity, and are destroyed, and lose their nature while they are boiled into many substances, and they take colors which do not belong to them. They are also congealed by frost, and are mingled and permeated with the filth of men and beasts, and with the blood of the slain, and being checked by skilled. I do wonder, was that did he start with the dirt actually in the top here? I'm getting a little tired. I guess I'm researching so many things, and plants and trenches, it's ashes, it seems like earth, I don't know. And lo, it is trodden under foot of man and beast, and receives the blood of the slain, and is stuck open. That seems like in regards of the earth. So now we had water, I guess. And with the blood of the slain, and being checked by skilled workmen through the restraint of aqueducts, they flow and are diverted against their inclination, and come into gardens and other places in order that they may be collected and issue forth as a means of fertility for man, and that they may cleanse away every impurity and fulfill the service man requires from them. Wherefore it is impossible that the waters should be a god, but they are a work of God and a part of the world. In like manner also they who believe that fire is a god error to no slight extent, for it too was created. Was it fire? Okay, so fire. Okay, so now it's going in regards of fire as a god error to no slight extent, for it too was created for the service of men, and is subject to them in many ways, in the preparation of meats, and as a means of casting metals, and for other ends whereof your majesty is aware. At the same time it is quenched and extinguished in many ways. Again, they also erred who believe the motion of the winds to be God. For it is well known to us that those winds are under the dominion of another. At times their motion increases, and at times it fails and ceases at the command of him who controls them. For they were created by God for the sake of men, in order to supply the necessity of trees and fruit and seeds, and to bring over the sea ships which convey for men necessaries and goods from places where they are found to where they are not found. Okay, where they are found to places where they are not found, and to govern the quarters of the world. And govern the quarters of the world. And as for itself, at times it increases and again abates, and in one place brings help, and in another causes disaster at the bidding of him who rules it, and mankind and mankind too are able by known means to confine and keep it in check, in order that it may fulfill for them the service they require from it. And of itself it has not any authority at all, and hence it is impossible that the winds should be called gods, but rather a thing made by God. So also they err to believe that the sun is a god. This is number 6 in Roman numbers. For we see that it is moved by the compulsion of another, and revolves and makes its journey, and proceeds from sign to sign, rising and setting every day, so as to give warmth for the growth of plants and trees, and to bring forth into the air wherewith its sunlight is mingled everywhere growing thing which is upon the earth, and to it where there belongs by comparison a part in common with the rest of the stars in its course, and though it is one in its nature, it is associated with many parts for the supply of the needs of men, and that not according to its own and will, but rather according to the will of him who rules it. And hence it is impossible that the sun should be a god, but the work of God, and in like manner also the moon and the stars. That actually sounds a little like from the Bible, that God created the stars and the sun and the moon and the stars. On the 4th day, by the way. Then we have number 7. And those who believed of the men of the past that some of them were gods, they too were much mistaken. For as you yourself allow, O king, man is constituted of the 4 elements, and of a soul and a spirit, and hence he is called a microcosm. And without any one of these parts he could not consist. Actually, in regards to the Bible, I think more like we have a spirit, soul, and body. That's 3 parts, as far as I understand it, that man is, consisting of. Of course, you have smaller parts but in any case, but overall, you have the spirit returns to God when you die. You have the body that decomposes, and then you have the soul sleeping in the realm of the dead. So until the resurrection. He has a beginning and an end, and he is born and dies, but God, as I said, has none of these things in his nature, but is uncreated and imperishable, and hence it is not possible that we should set up man to be the nature of God. Man to whom at times when he looks for joy there comes trouble, and when he looks for laughter there comes to him weeping, who is wrathful and covetous and envious with other defects as well, and he is destroyed in many ways by the elements and also by the animals. And hence, O king, we are bound to recognize the error of barbarians, that thereby, since they did not find traces of the true God, they fell aside from the truth and went after the desire of their imagination, serving the perishable elements and lifeless images, and through their error not apprehending what the true God is. Number 5, 6, 7, 8. Number 8. Let us turn further to the Greeks also, that we may know what opinion they hold as to the true God. The Greeks then, because they are more subtle than the barbarians, have gone further astray than the barbarians, inasmuch as they have introduced many fictitious gods, and have set up some of them as males and some as females, and in that some of their gods were found who were adulterers, and did murder, and were deluded, and envious, and wrathful, and passionate. And by the way, in regards of the book of Clementine's Recognition and Homilies, also they actually debate, Greeks that have, and it talks about the Greek religion and so forward. So, because they're debating, the debate is ongoing in regards of, in regards to the real God and in regards of the Greek gods and what those that believe in the Greek gods actually believe. So it talks a little about those things because they're discussing it and debating and so forward in those books. So, but anyway, and did murder and were deluded and envious and wrathful and passionate and parasites and parasites or something. I'm not sure what that actually is. Let's see here. Copy. Parasites.
Parasite.
Oh, parasite. Oh, killing parents and all that. And thieves and robbers, and some of them, they say, were crippled and limped, and some of them were sorcerers, and some actually went mad, and some played on lyres, and some were given to roaming on the hills, and some even died, and some were struck dead by lightning, and some were made servants even to men, and some escaped by flight, and some were kidnapped by men, and some indeed were lamented and deplored by men, and some, they say, went down to Sheol. Now again, Sheol is the realm of death. Now a lot of confessed Christians out there, whatever you want, different denomination and whatever, but they will say they go to heaven when they die. But as far as I can see, that's not true. We are going to the realm of death when we die, awaiting the resurrection when Jesus returns. Now, there's 2 resurrections and all that, so I'm still not entirely sure which resurrection it will be that we are resurrected at, but it seems like some Christians believe that we actually will resurrected when Jesus returns. So if Jesus returns to set up his 1,000-year reign on earth, well, that would be the first resurrection in regards to the Christians. And maybe that is in regards of where we see the sheep and the goats. I don't know. Still something to research and figure out, but we have the great white throne at the end, right? So where all are resurrected and either condemned to the second death or everlasting life. Anyway, and some, they say, went down to Sheol. And again, we have different sources. We have Justin Martyr saying that if you meet someone that believes that they're going directly to heaven when they die, don't even believe they're Christians, That's not word for word, but, then we have the letter to Bishop Victor in Rome, also talking about the resurrection and all that, and that these people are sleeping, sleeping like, in regards of waiting the resurrection and all that. And we also have, another sources in regards to the medicine chest, where they are, in regards to the heresies and the Nazarene heresy, where he's actually saying that they believe as we do, and also in regards to the resurrection and all that, but they believe that they should still keep the law of Moses and all that. So you see, and there's probably a lot of more sources out there in regards to documents, in regards to the resurrection and all. Of course, you see the New Testament as well in regards to the resurrection and all that. So, but just to have some more data points in regards of things. So that's, Satan is very sneaky, and anyway, and some were grievously wounded, and some transformed themselves into the likeness of animals to seduce the race of mortal women, and some polluted themselves by lying with the males, and some, they say, were wedded to their mothers and their sisters and their daughters, and they say of their gods that they committed adultery with the daughters of men, and of these there was born a certain race, which also was was mortal, and they say that some of the females disputed about beauty and appeared before men for judgment. Thus, O king, have the Greeks put forward foulness and absurdity and folly about their gods and about themselves, in that they have called those that are of such a nature gods, who are no gods, and hence mankind have received incitement to commit adultery and fornication, and to steal and to practice all that is offensive and hated and abhorred. For if they who are called their gods practice all these things which are written above, how much more should men practice them, men who believe that their gods themselves practice them? And that's the thing. There's also some of the arguments in the Clementine homilies and the Clementine recognition books when they are discussing this in regards of all these sins that these so-called gods commits and all that in regards to the stories and all that. And owing to the foulness of this error that have happened to man, and again, how can you actually use these arguments if you say that the law of Jehovah is cast aside? It's just, because the law of God is what shows us what sin and transgression is. So. Because if you don't have anything to, well, then you could say, well, that's okay to do, and this is okay to do, this is okay. But according to the Bible, these things are not okay to do. It's not okay to commit adultery, to commit fornication, to steal, and and so forward, and having sex with your whatever, and murdering and all that. Anyway, that's considered sin according to the Bible and the law of Moses. So anyway, and owing to the foulness of this error that happened to mankind, harassing wars and great famines and bitter captivity and complete desolation. And lo, it was by reason of this alone that they suffered, and that all these things came upon them. And while they endured those things, they did not perceive in their mind that for their error those things came upon them. Let us proceed further. Okay, this is number 9. So let us proceed further to the account of their gods, that we may carefully demonstrate all that is said above. First of all, that the Greeks bring forward as a god Kronos, that is to say, Kion or Saturn. I do wonder if that in regards of Saturday, maybe in regards of Saturn. Anyway, we know there's a lot of false gods in the weekdays. You can see the Latin calendar or the Roman calendar. You see the Danish calendar of and then the English calendar and all that. You have all this bullshit. Anyway, and his worshippers sacrificed their children to him. And they burned some of them alive in his honor. And of course, God in the Bible said, don't do that. Don't burn your children. He's really, really angry. Anyway, and of course, in regards to the Canaanites, who was in the land of Canaan before the Israelites, the problem was, it's like when people are saying, oh, well, God is bad and all that, he let the Israelites wipe out these pagan nations and all that. Well, the thing is, these pagan nations was doing the most abominable things, so in any case, and they say that he took to him among his wives Rhea, and begat many children by her. By her too he begat Dios, who is called Zeus, and at length he Kronos went mad, and through fear of an oracle that had been made known to him, he began to devour his sons, and from him Zeus was stolen away without his knowledge, and at length Zeus bound him and mutilated the signs of his manhood and flung them into the sea, and hence, as they say in fable, there was engendered Aphrodite, who is called Astarte. Oh, I've heard about Astarte. Who was Astarte? Was that in regards of actually going back to the Babylonian thing as well? I think that was something like Easter. Was Astarte actually Easter? I can't remember. I guess one could probably figure out a lot of things if one read a lot of these documents from the past to figure out what they actually believed in the old days. and maybe connect things and all that. But, pagan bullshit pretty much. And we don't really need to know about all the pagan bullshit. We just need to know about what the Bible says, Anyway, there was engendered Aphrodite, who is called Astarte, and he serves, cast out Cronus, fettered into darkness. Great then is the error, and ignominy, I can't remember what this means. Ignominy, a state of dishonor. Okay, a state of dishonor. Which the Greeks have brought forward about the first of their gods, in that they have said all this about him, O king. It is impossible that a god should be bound or mutilated, and if it be otherwise, he is indeed miserable. And after Cronus, they bring forward another god, Zeus, and they say of him that he assumed the sovereignty and was king over all the gods. And they say that he changed himself into a beast and other shapes in order to seduce mortal women and to raise up by them children for himself. Once they say he changed himself into a bull through love of Europe, and that's interesting. Europe. What is that Europe word? Through love of Europe. So I do wonder what that word actually means. Like, we have Europe as well, right? And of course, it seems to go back to Rome and all that. So it's probably some kind of pagan bullshit again. I don't know. That's interesting. What does Europe actually mean? Europe. Do we spell it differently? I don't know. Europe. Let's see. Maybe we spell it. Yeah, European countries. Yeah, but what does the word actually mean? There must be, if it's a Greek or something like that, one would be able to look it up, I guess. Anyway, and Europe and Pasiphae, and again he changed himself into the likeness of gold through love of Danae, and to the swan through the love of Leda, and to a man through love of Antiope. And think about it. There's a lot of promotion of paganism in our days. It's just in the songs, it's in the movies, it's in the witchcraft and whatever. It's just everywhere pretty much. And to swan through love of Leda, and to a man through love of Antiope, and to lightning through love of Luna. And so by Luna sounds like the moon or something. Anyway, and so by these he begat many children, for by Antiope they say that he begat Cephus and Amphion, and by Luna Dionysus, by Almena Hercules, and by Leto Apollo, and Artemis. That was in regards of Artemis, in regards of, in regards to the book of Acts, with a lot of breasts, as I understand. Anyway, the temple of Artemis, I think that was something. Anyway, and by Danae Perseus, and by Leda Castor and Polydeuces, and Helena and Polydus, and by Mnemosyne he begat 9 daughters, whom they styled the Muses. And by Europe, Minos and Radamanthus, and Sarpedon. And lastly, he changed himself into the likeness of an eagle through his passion for Ganymedes, the shepherd. By reason of these tales, O king, much evil has risen among men, who to this day are imitators of their gods, and practice adultery, and defile themselves with their mothers and their sisters, and by lying with males, and some make bold to slay even their parents. For if he who is said to be the chief and king of their gods do these things, how much more should his worshippers imitate him? And great is the folly which the Greeks have brought forward in their narrative concerning him. For it is impossible that a god should practice adultery or fornication, or come near to lie with males, or kill his parents, and if it be otherwise, he is much worse than a destructive demon. Number 10. Again, they bring forward as another god Hephaestus, and they say of him that he is lame, and a cap is set on his head. And he holds in his hand fire thongs and a hammer, and he follows the craft of iron working, that thereby he may procure the necessaries of his livelihood. is then this God. Oh, we have problems with the connection again. Apparently, again, I can't really do much about it. Hopefully there will come another program that will be able to upload or something like that, where you can actually put in some settings. But as far as it goes for now, it's I guess as long as you're actually not uploading, it's actually I can try to reconnect, but yep, live stream has been reconnected. Great. So let's see if we can get. The network status is poor. Well, that's just no, still having problems apparently. Still, I don't know what is wrong with this. It seems to just continue to complain. It's incredible. Network status is poor. Please, yeah. Well, there's nearly full signal. Have to be kidding me. How much? How and this is bullshit. I don't know if it's in regards of YouTube, in regards of, it might be if YouTube is overloaded by uploads or something like that, because as you can see, I have full signal. I pretty much stand out here and there's full signal without any problem, and yet it continues to complain. I remember actually testing the network and all that, and it doesn't seem to actually be the network, so I guess it might be YouTube. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the problem is, but stop complaining. I'm done. I'm done for now. I don't, it's just incredible. It just continues with the complaining. I have to figure out another application that where I actually can maybe actually set the resolution down, because it's no problem to setting the resolution down. It's I wouldn't have a problem with that as long as the voice is good. Anyway, I'm done for now. It's incredible.